Hey guys, it's Matt. With the gigantic winter snowstorm coming, the nor'easter, I'm just outside of Philadelphia. I have to make this video like it could be my last one before the winter solstice, which is Monday, the 21st. Today's the 16th. We are out of time. A segment of the truth community, whenever there's a major event, will camp on and promote fear and the end of the world. And no, I don't think the massive resets coming or the end of the world or anything like that. I don't probably think they probably wouldn't be making the Matrix 4 for next March. They probably know. Whenever you see Disney or a Matrix movie or something major is going to come out, you could say, well, these creeps know more about um, the cosmological clock carrying forth or ancient knowledge or whatever they carry forth, trying to keep us in the dark from it. You say, oh, the Matrix 4 is coming out. We have at least till then. So I don't look. Of course, when there's a major event, a segment of the truth community will push fear, turn them off. Don't ever go back. It's fine. Now, look, if I'm just, got to get all this stuff out just in case I do lose power, and then it takes forever to be restored. If you lose it in these conditions, it'll take forever to be restored. So I've got the wood piled up for the wood stove just in case. But from an astrological perspective, astrology, I'm not an expert. Everything I've ever pretty much learned from astrology I've gotten from Levette. But just to go over the absolute basics for anybody struggling, why is this solstice, the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction, and the planetary alignment so significant? Well, the Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions happen every 20 years, and they're very, very important and significant from an astrological perspective. It basically, for those that believe that the stars do tell the story of how, as above, so below, how life goes down here, and the reason I've mentioned many times I pay incredible attention to it, and those that decipher it and talk about it, like Levette, because I have observed that the creeps do everything by the stars. Everything. So when they're using it to operate, it is important that we understand it. And the way Levette and others talk about it is the Saturn to Jupiter conjunction every 20 years sets the tone or sets the trajectory for the next 20 years. It's a mini cycle inside greater cycles. The precession of the equinoxes, total overall a 26 or so thousand year cycle. Inside of that, you have roughly 2,000 year cycles of maybe a little bit more of going from one age to the next. Pisces going into Aquarius. The experts don't know exactly. They can't point to the exact time. We, quote, will go into Aquarius. Some say we're already there. Some say we have a long way to go. Some say we're very close. And potentially another interpretation is people actually enter different ages individually as spirits. Not everybody just moves together holding hands. Hold hands with the NPCs and move in together. Maybe you move in at different times. I don't know, but technically we're still in Pisces moving into Aquarius. So the most significant mini cycle is the conjunction, the Saturn to Jupiter conjunction. And then on top of it, what makes this one so massive, a 1 in a million type situation, you have other planetary alignments or multiple planets in alignment with Saturn and Jupiter. And then you have where it's happening from an astrological perspective. They would say, I don't know the details on this, but I'm just explaining why it's so important. Oh, this is happening. This conjunction is happening in, something's house. That's the way they'll say Saturn's house, or I don't know the details of it, but each planet has a house or a sign, Virgo or Libra, etc. So everything is lining up for this one. And the most important thing to remember about it, if you remember nothing else, is the way astrologers look at it, or the way the creeps do business. It sets the tone for the next 20 years. Now, even before I understood, well, I was going to say as much as I understand about the astrology, and I understand very little, I was talking about, it did feel like a wet cement. I've been saying wet cement for a long time, at least a year and a half or so. And that is the same uh, imagery as trying to get something on a certain trajectory, like Napoleon Dynamite's whatever that tetherball things. Once he throws it enough times and it starts spinning round and round and round, it's going to go round and round and round on its own, and he's going to win that game against the little girl that sells the cosmetics and takes the glam shots. But sorry, I gotta watch that movie again. That's a good movie for the solstice. Got to be in a different frame of mind, but it sets the trajectory, and fortunately, smart people would say that our personal trajectory does not have to be the trajectory that the quote world is in. In terms of the world, in terms of putting something on a trajectory, I don't want to sing the praises of any creeps, but they put the entire world, they put the entire Western world, at least, if not more, into a face covering in 6 weeks. And it's what they pulled off here. And I would take that back. They didn't pull anything off yet. What they have done thus far has been beyond anything we possibly could have imagined. And we were looking at this structure years ago saying this is not human or couldn't be pulled off by regular men and women. But it just confirms everything we've thought, and then it times it by about 100 and puts it on steroids. So the reach of the one world system is beyond anything we thought. Even when it started to look bad in terms of putting everybody in the face covering, I figured, well, is this they're going to play this gig out for the next 20 years? The T-ism and building whatever, and the two buildings in building 7, that was the 20-year before. They played, Basher in Ocean's 11. You know what I'm going to do. You don't play the same gig, you play a new gig. I need to hear it. I can't do the accent unless I hear it right before I do it. But it's like, this is the new gig. This is the new gig. They're not going to, the T-isms, well, those people they don't do anything anymore. They're just all, I guess they're appeased. They don't care. Well, it was 90 whatever 8% fake anyway. There were a few real pissed off people that did some bad things, but 98% of it was fake. But they're going to play the new gig, which is health and things you can't see, and obviously where I'm going there. So they want to put this new world situation into a certain trajectory for the next 20 years. And it does seem, from at least the way they operate or the way they do business, I don't have any insider information or Mr. Beeks passing me information in the orange section of the parking garage. I'm an observer of how they do business, a close observer of how they do business. And if you watch it long enough, you can come to conclusions with a high degree of accuracy as this is kind of how it must be working, because we've seen it happen over and over. There aren't a lot of other alternatives or possibilities. So just with the T-ism that's what was happened just after the turn of the new century, it didn't keep happening. It's kind of like they play their cards and they do lose a great degree of power. And whatever's happening now, the degree of it, they won't be able to keep this up. All right, are things going to go back to normal and crowded concerts and mosh pits, and people spitting all over each other? And no, there's always going to be tracking and tracing armies, and Ticketmaster will say you have to prove this and that before you can get in, and all of course, it's basically like having to take your shoes off before the airport, times 1,000 on steroids. But it's not going to be what it is now. Okay, they will lose a great degree of power. What they want to do is put it on a trajectory. A trajectory for the next. And people like Levitt would say that from an astrology perspective, they put all their cards on Jupiter and Mercury and the star Sirius. John McEnroe, you cannot be Sirius. If you're, as a linesman, you made such a horrible call, he's saying you can't be of Sirius. You can't be of, quote, our God. The dog star, God spelled backwards. That's what you cannot be serious is all about. But does John McEnroe know what he's paying a tribute to or an ode to that every time he does it? Maybe not. Maybe not. It would be easy enough to wean that little moron to say that for his whole career, and agents coming to him and, John, this is really working. You keep that up. It's going to be your thing. When a linesman makes a bad call, you cannot be serious. He runs around now in the geriatric tournaments. The people pay to see the old legends and they wheel them in. And of course there'll be a big skit where a lineman will on purpose make a bad call, ball be 2 feet, and he'll scream at the lineman, "You cannot be serious." To me, I've said it many times. It's an ode to their astrological god, Sirius. But Levette would say, they've put all their chips, and the past age was a Jupiter Mercury control, which has to do with empire building, business, commerce, finance. What did we see the last 20 years? The dot-com boom was before the last conjunction, I believe, but there was hedge funds and just, George Soros collapsing economies and all of that. And Levette and many of the astrological experts would say that when Saturn gains control, they will lose a lot of power. Okay, now people screaming at this computer or this video as they watch it. I guess they're not screaming at my actual computer, just screaming at the video as they watch it. Would say, Matt, Saturn is Satan, and of course they're going to gain more power as Saturn takes control. The next era is Saturn's era. Okay, Jupiter will lose its power. Saturn will gain its power from an astrological perspective. And it's not so fast. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. When something is that simple that, oh look, Matt, Saturn, Santa, and Satan are just one letter off. And it's a funny section of my book, but I wrote about the connections between all three in the book. It's mostly a funny section, but even for years I fell for it. It's not that simple to just assign Saturn to Satan, and they just move a couple letters around, you have Satan. When something is demonized by this system, you have to step back and say how it could be very positive. Everything here, from that perspective, generally works the opposite. And those of us that are honing our abilities and frequency and resonance or harmonics to see certain things can see right through their tricks, can apply the opposite. And actually, an email is coming to me, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I forget right now who sent it to me. I do apologize. I get a lot of emails. I will write back to you or write to me, and I'll I should say who sent this to me, but I just can't remember right now. And she said, Matt, we hear, how many times in the media have we heard about world peace? I'm thinking Annie McDowell in Groundhog Day comes to mind. Phil, I always drink to world peace. The next day resets and feels like trying to get her into bed. What should we drink to? How about world peace? And she, he wants the same. He knows exactly what she drinks. Groundhog Day, days reset. But come on, world peace. How many times that presented in media, movies, just everywhere. And the brilliance of the email was, Matt, because the system's pushing it so hard, and whenever that happens, the real truth is somewhere else on a different radio station. Doesn't always have to be just the opposite. She said the real truth is probably the next higher level up is we should all wish for inner peace, or the era going in where we need to do the inner work to find out more about ourselves, who we truly are. That I truly believe in the yin and yang. As the creeps do all this stuff to the quote exterior world through the minions on behalf of the screen, I do believe the yin and yang has to apply. I believe it's given us tremendous insight. Those of us who want to understand more about ourselves and the reason we're here, it's giving us so much. People ask me for old videos. I say, why? We're learning weekly sometimes. Old videos are old. I mean, there's no reason to go backwards. So, see, what she did was, it was a brilliant example of somebody that's tuning themselves to the exact right frequency of where they need to be. I mean, how many people have gotten them, and many people here have in channels like this or communities like this. But how many people would be able to notice here they're pushing world peace again? If this system is pushing that so hard, what's the real answer? It's never what they say it is. It's never what they serve up. That's why I reject Satan is Santa. I mean, Satan is Saturn. When they serve it up so many other times, the answer is something else. So it's just a perfect example of somebody in a complete, incredible harmonic to go, well, wait a second, that's maybe it means the ultimate goal of everything should be inner peace, finding ourselves. So very, very astute, and it's a great example of the, we should be doing this daily. We should be not just see the old era of truthers was, oh, this over here, what they're presenting here, this is bullshit. This is, oh my gosh, what happened at that warehouse or that school, or see that first era of truther this is ridiculous. But then the second era, what do we have, a few days before the solstice, the second era is to what's the true meaning of it and how it should be applied by us. How she said, no, inner peace. Now anybody screaming at the computer, why do I do that again? Anybody screaming at this video at their own computer, saying, well, what do you mean? What's wrong with world peace? That's the system is, that's a tremendously, incredibly great thing, world peace. But I would first say to you, do you think that, how many times we've heard world peace, this and that? Do you think the system itself really wants that? Of course not. So if it's being pushed through media, we've heard it a million times in a million different places, we know right off the bat they don't really want it. So what is the true meaning of it? What's the true meaning of it being pushed by Andy McDowell saying what she drinks to in Groundhog Day times 1,000 or a million? So it gets into going into, guys, if this video were to cut off now and I get power outage and you never hear don't hear from me until the solstice, I would say really to can we do this in just a few days? Maybe, because we've been leading up to this for many, many years. You have to get out, maybe stop watching any sort of, first I was going to say stop watching videos, but if just do this at least. Any video that at all pushes fear in any way, please turn off, especially before the solstice. You have to get the trajectory for the next 20 years. You can put yourself on an individual. I don't know if I completed my thought when I talked about this a while back. They can put the world on a certain trajectory, but that doesn't mean it has to be your individual trajectory. Your individual trajectory can be you can harden the cement on yourself before the solstice. And exactly what power the solstice brings in this regard, I don't know. I'm not going to take any chances. We know the creeps do business by it. I'm not going to take any chances. If I do a practice every day, and I try to, whenever Jupiter's very close to Saturn, you can see it in the sky, probably southwest, probably a little bit earlier in the United States rather than later, just when it gets dark, I believe. But I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to do certain practices, and then the two main things to avoid from a truth or perspective, in my opinion, would be one, any sort of fear, these fear channels talking about end of the world resets and come on, man, come on, or just talking about I'm not going to what it would be when we do the no hobo code, get everybody's information and do podcast direct, the ability to speak completely freely. I can't even imagine what that will feel like, because I was about to rip a few channels right now and I can't do it. But promotion of fear, that's number one. We should have given that up a long time ago. But at least try to get yourself on the right trajectory for Monday. Not a lot of time. The second thing would be the 1.25, listening to YouTube videos and truth videos on 1.25, many people of which I'm sure are doing that now on this video. And they probably get frustrated with me at times because I start to talk very quick. That's very difficult, 1.25. So this isn't good enough, listening at 1.25. because the days of just trying to collect the information and just trying to tick off the bullet points and understanding what happened at that fake event and doing the tail of the tape and doing the spreadsheets of what's real and what's not, and that's over. Okay, that's over. It's getting yourself into a certain place now for the rest of your life and for the next 20 years, assuming there is power in the Saturn to Jupiter. The conjunctions have real power as to putting something or someone or society or whatever into a certain trajectory for the next 20 years. So if you're watching a truth video in 1.25, which I did for years and years, it's about what can I get out of this person? Oh, I know that. I know that. Oh, this is new. Oh, Matt's going to tell me a little bit about this event or this fake event. Oh, that it's just it doesn't. We're out of. We should be out of the bog by now. We're there. Basically, I mean, the whole world, the whole presentation of everything is fake. Everything. It's the way the whole reality works. It's a massive distraction to derail us. To get us off our path, to get us to lose our spiritual selves. The purpose of the entire screen, everything every minion does. We don't need to know anymore about even 1.25 listening about higher level things. It's not good enough anymore. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know enough about the way these jerks and minions work, what their role is here to play that will ultimately benefit you spiritually, getting yourself in a certain position, putting yourself in a state of mind, body, soul. See, you watch one fear YouTube video, it will just disrupt that. It will disrupt it. That's what they're there for. The truth community has been more compromised and played and used than any other community out there by this system. So it's not a whole lot of time, guys. To do this right, we probably need a whole lot more time. But we do have time. It is not here yet. And do you understand the difference between listening at 1.25, just trying to get as much information as you can and say, I don't need the information anymore. I see what the reality is. I see what it does. I see its tricks. And per the yin and yang, it will, if it plays these games and screws everybody so massively over here, then per the yin and yang, it must give this reality has all the tools I need to benefit myself, to put myself on the trajectory for the next 20 years. So what I'm proposing, if you're listening at 1.25, you're not even close to being in the right state of mind. But somebody at the right state of mind would be like, I don't even need to watch any more videos. Do I know everything about everything? No, but it's all about, I understand the tools are here in this reality for me to use them. And I don't, it's like Luke it wasn't Return of the Jedi. It might have been Empire Strikes Back after Yoda. He wasn't a fully trained Jedi at that when he left the first time, but he left. He had something to do. He wasn't nearly a fully trained Jedi. You don't need to know everything. At least, if nothing else, just focus on this before the solstice. Here's another video about ancient structures, and I need to watch this. And here's another video about a reset, and that should not be happening now, guys, before the solstice. It should be about turning as much stuff off as possible, and you don't think the Matrix isn't going to throw every distraction in the world at you. Here we go. This is how many times have we had a massive nor'easter this early? Never. There's almost never a white Christmas, a snowy Christmas here in the Northeast, below Boston. There's snow comes in January. It's not cold enough usually. This is absolutely unprecedented. I don't know how far you have to go back for a major snowstorm this early, but it would be a long time. Is it? We were blank trailed Bueller yesterday. We were blank economics. Anyone? Voodoo blank trailed in the skies. Look, it's Pink Floyd. Look, Mommy, there's no planes up in the sky. It's a Pink Floyd song, Goodbye Blue Sky. It was unbelievable yesterday. Unbelievable. Um, and creating this massive event, people are going to be worried about food. People are worried about shoveling. People are worried about power outages. People are worried about what do we do with the kids. People are worried about this. It creates massive confusion, and it will be dying down right about the solstice, the 21st. Now, I guess if there was a major weather event appropriate to every level of the country, an earthquake here and a fire here, all the same, I guess it would give it away. The creeps in the back rooms, and what are we going to do to distract as many people before going into the solstice? Not that most of these people would know to get themselves in the right position before the solstice anyway. But if we can create the most massive distraction in the world, get them in a certain state, they won't even barely be shoveled out of their driveway. They'll be worried about work meetings will be canceled, all the flights will be backed up, and this and that. Oh, we can get them in this. We can put that Napoleon Dynamite tetherball into a really sick trajectory for the next 20 years. And we don't play it. We ain't playing that. I would say stop watching videos. I really would. I mean, you don't have a long. You just have till the 21st, or at least some channels that you know are going to be a little fear based. You're going to talk about the action Jacksonation and this and that, and let's leave it behind, guys. I mean, I'll watch a little bit more news for the purposes of this channel, but from your perspective, I need to do more of it, especially moving into the podcast direct format that I want to move into. Via getting information at no hobo code dot whatever. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. But turn it off. Turn the news off. And if nothing else, do it the day before the solstice and do your own little. I don't know. Just your own little ritual. Just saying, okay, the creeps do business by this. This supposedly sets a tone or a trajectory for 20 years. And whatever the world's being put into a river that the current is flowing very aggressively, this cement's not going to harden on me. I'm not going to. You put my little boat in the river, it doesn't go down. It just stays right there. It defies everything. I won't. What we talked about several weeks ago. I won't go where the creeps want to take this place. I won't go there. I'm strong enough, powerful enough to do on my own to create a reality bubble around me. Yeah, you might not be able to get into concert venues, and you're gonna have to live in this life, but mind, body, and spirit, you don't have to be. You don't have to be put in the trajectory, little canoe they want to shove everybody in and send down the river for the next 20 years that everybody's going along with now. And we're here to save ourselves, to put ourselves in the right place. We can't even get through to the people closest to us. So we are not here to wake them up. So guys, I'm going to go through this list here, and I'm going to come back and talk about a few more things if I can. Yeah, this was on my list, guys. A quick segment on how we know we're right. How we know we're right in terms of the community we're in and how we see the world versus our friends, family, and neighbors who believe we're a little off, we're crazy, whether it be our interpretation of 7/11 or what's happening now. And I know many of you will initially want to scream at this video and say, well, of course we're right. What do you mean? How do we know we're right? I mean, what other possible interpretation of a building that's 47 stories going down in 8.5 seconds for no reason? Okay, but you get into things like first of all, what I'm going to present is a complete giveaway, but something you've probably never thought about as to how we know we're right. But you don't know you're right if you think big enough until I think it's backed up by this one piece. For example, the craziest and biggest of all thinking, or thinking around three corners at the same time, people talk about carrying around separate reality bubbles. And inside each of our reality bubbles, there are elements that are the same, like who won the Super Bowl last year, who is the puppet president-elect, all okay, we would share a ton of things, but is it truly the same reality we're carrying around with us? How subjective is it? And does the quantum aspect of it, does the interpretation actually, to a degree, dictate the reality? Now, this is crazy big thinking, guys, and we'll do this some other time. I'm just telling you, it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, I know for sure, we know for sure we're right, and other people around us are crazy, and they think we're crazy, but we for some reason they can't see." And it is likely, but in terms of how exactly the reality works, we don't know for sure, but we can get close to knowing for sure through simple things like this. So let me just present it. It's, they give themselves away, the people around us, because they never ask us to explain ourselves. Okay, this is the simplest way to know that we are right in all this in our interpretation of reality. So whenever we present something or have tried to talk to someone over the years, we know at this point nobody can be woken up. And even the last video back, we talked about the rules of the game dictate that someone can't be woken up. And my hypothesis was there are elements of that person that are very, very far more powerful than who they think they are. They think they're just the straw man, first name caps, all name caps, the frontal lobes in the thinking mind, and that's all they think they are. So they refuse to acknowledge the truth because they're being led away from the truth by themselves, by subconscious, unconscious, or potentially spiritual aspects of themselves that won't let the person understand the truth because they need to go through it themselves. They can't be told what the matrix is. They need to experience it, whether it happened in this lifetime or other lifetimes or other experiences. They simply are too young of a soul and they can't be told. Oh, thanks for explaining that to me. Now I'll stop watching CNN. After your 1 hour presentation to me, Matt, I'll never watch CNN again, and I don't believe a guy in a cave did it. Oh, thanks. It's just they're not, and I'm saying there are aspects of themselves that are hypnotizing or brainwashing themselves to not be able to hear it. So the point, guys, is how we know we're right is they never ask us to explain ourselves. Then someone would say, well, Matt, why do one of my best friends, you've talked about 7-Eleven so many times, and I don't think you're crazy. You've always been a really smart guy, so explain it to me for 2 hours. I'll give you one chance, and pull up a chair. Let's have some beers and explain it to me. And I'll talk to you. They never will engage with you. So that really gives the situation away by itself that we are right and they couldn't possibly be right in their interpretation. I'll give you an example, a bad example, but well, maybe a good example. I don't know. If a good friend of yours or a loved one that you always respected or a spouse, you might not believe in ghosts or poltergeists, or you just might completely not believe in any of that. And that's, whether you do or not, that's not the point here. Just assume these things are possible. And the friend came to you and said, that scene in Ghostbusters or whatever. It was in the library, turned around, and there was this ghost there, just tried to slime me. And there was, you saw a ghost? And what would we do? I mean, people like you and me, what would we do? Would we be like, oh, that's ridiculous, and do the earmuffs and try to walk away? Or, I mean, the type of people we've kind of evolved into, we might not believe in ghosts, but we would be like, well, wait a second, sit down, talk to me about that. What exactly happened? Is there any chance, we might try to be skeptical and say, any chance, like Scrooge, you had a bit of bad beef or some rancid mustard that caused you to experience the three ghosts? Is there any reason? Were you on any medications? But we would engage with them. That's the type of people we are. We would talk. We would want to understand. We wouldn't just take some download and try to walk away. So that's what gives these people away. I would say, for those who we say just can't wake up for whatever reason, I don't think any one of you well, there could be exceptions. I can't say 100%, but it would be extremely rare that anybody listening to this would say, "Well, I tried to talk to somebody about 7-Eleven, and they were very interested, Matt. They wanted to sit down with me. We spoke for hours, and at the end, they were listening to me very carefully, and they asked me questions. But at the end, they just couldn't believe it, and they believed Wolf Blitzer's Situation Room. I don't think anybody's going to have that. It's it's the fact that they're so. It's I've given DVDs to people, and friends or family, and things I could never show on the channel, clips of this, clips of that, and it's just you go, did you watch it? And one person, no, it's still sitting on my, like they won't watch it, but do you realize this is 40 hours of work and won't watch it? Another family member, it took forever to watch the 7-Eleven video that I gave them, and I just kept saying, "Did you watch it yet?" No, no. And then I kept following up, asking, "Did you watch it? Did you watch it?" And then I just figured after 4 times of asking, they weren't going to watch it, so I stopped asking. It's just so weird the how people, I don't call it take the download, or become different people, or just act so bizarre, like they've totally lost themselves. So what happened? I guess I asked one more time, months and months later. No chance you watched the video, right? Oh yeah, I watched it. Well, why didn't you tell me? Well, you didn't ask. You didn't. I didn't ask. For weeks after I gave it to you, I asked, "Did you watch? Did you watch? Did you watch?" So I'm not going to keep asking. I figured if you watched, you would have then told me the day after you watched it. So months went by. You never asked. What? The response of these people is insane. And it was then so far. But then I said, well, it was just too much talking by you, Matt. You're just trying to push your notion of what happened down people's throats. You can't approach people like that, Matt. It was just all the problems with it. But what about a 100 million ton building of 47 stories, which if you would have just dropped number 7 in any European country, it would be one of the top 3 tallest in the entire country. Just drop it in any European country. Of any European country, with maybe a few exceptions like Germany. Just drop it anywhere, it would be one of the top 3 tallest in the country. I'm not talking about a she shed that went down in the complex, number 7. And I thought, what about the 47-story building that if you dropped it anywhere in Western Europe would be one of the top 3 tallest, and it just went down for no reason in 8.5 seconds, hours later? And then just, they won't say, well, that's a good point. It's a good point. And we were very concerned about, no. Well, again, I couldn't even get to that spot because your diatribes through the thing were so obnoxious. Like, they'll just come up with any reason why they can't. So, 2 things here to wrap up this segment. Number 1 is because they will never engage and sit down and say, tell me about that. Gives them away. We're right. They're wrong. It's that simple. And also, there are, like the last video back, if they are, at least for the real people, those that are not complete NPCs, they're just not ready, or they're young souls. And there are aspects of all of us that are so much more powerful than this little idiot mind that thinks in the spellcraft and the box of English, that they're actually brainwashed and misled by themselves to not be fair actors in dealing with the information. So anyway, that was probably a little long-winded, guys, but I wanted to definitely talk about that. All right, this was on my list, and I don't know if we're going to get an answer on this, whether it be coming up with an answer now or through the comments, but just want to talk about one of our biggest frustrations with what's happening now, out the window. Can't even say the letters potential anymore. See, I know people would say, well, Matt, others talk about it and they say the word V, but their meter isn't turned up to 10, where mine is. My meter will talk about how I'm pretty sure YouTube works, whether it be from the use of copyrighted material. My meter is turned to 10. So you can't, any little hiccup is it will register on the meter where some other guy will review Star Wars and show 30 minutes of Blu-ray in this presentation. So the point here is one of our biggest frustrations is why people continuously believe the news over their own experience in terms of what's happening now. Now, in March and April, there's no sample size. We don't know what's going to happen. All these horrible news stories out of China and San Francisco locked down before the first case, or created. They didn't lock down. They created or put forth a state of emergency before the first case. We should have known then. But okay, so people are going to believe the news. Oh, okay. But at some point, what our biggest frustration is now, doesn't their own experience, our own experience trump? I don't ever want to use that term again. Shouldn't their own experience take precedent and eclipse what the news is saying? Well, okay, the news keeps telling my father so many thousands of cases, so many deaths, whatever. News, you know what's on the news. But my family here, is not the healthiest bunch. All right? It is not the healthiest bunch by a long shot. I haven't been to the gym in months, and I'm a picture of health. There's very few young in my family, mostly old. How many, I could send an email to my aunt, how many in the family, the three names or so, have died? Oh, none. How many have gotten sick or even had it? None. Well, it's possible, one of my distant relatives, but I haven't heard anything. So any degree of common sense, you should say to these people, unless we're gods, are we like born into some Percy Jackson where Matt is actually some hybrid offspring of demigod of Zeus, and my relative over here is some bastard offspring of Poseidon, and are we all demigods? Like what is it? Perseus went after Medusa. We're all demigods. We're all the sick, fat people who generally have been sick. That's what I'm saying. Have been sick, fat, infirmed. We're all demigods, I guess, born of like Percy Jackson. Then, or you could say, or my aunt might admit we're not demigods. Well, doesn't that mean then that the news then is just not presenting what's actually happening? How your block down your block? How many people down your block? I heard this guy up here got it and he felt bad for a couple days. But why doesn't personal experience take precedent over what's on the news? It has to, guys. We go back to the download, the mind control, all the sophisticated reality buttons and levers they're able to push in their tactics, and we'll talk about all that some other time. But they're not all powerful. So I'll give you just a ridiculous example. I might have talked about this in the past. But if the news says there's an alien invasion, I know for some reason the truthers keeps talking about the alien invasion. I don't see how they would possibly pull that off, guys. But I'll talk about that some other time. I don't. It would be comical if they tried to pull off an alien invasion. Fine. Anyway, sorry. If the news says there was an alien invasion, people would be scared. The Orson Welles, The War of the Worlds, they'd be scared for a few days, and then say, has anybody seen any of these? Is there any? Where did they? Well, they supposedly landed in New Jersey, but somebody's down in Ocean City, New Jersey, and there's nothing going on. There's no aliens. There's people up on the boardwalk that look like aliens. They're devolved human beings in such a state, but that's not the aliens that the news is describing. And well, at some point, then what we see ourselves would take over what the news is saying. I don't believe there's an alien invasion. Nobody's seen an alien. I don't care what the news is saying. Well, why hasn't that happened now? And it just, what I think is happening is it's like how the reality itself always does business down perfectly in that Goldilocks range. Not too hot, not too cold. The porridge for Goldilocks is just right. See, people, they don't the reality masters, the master idiots and a-holes that have little bells to bring in Jared. Jared, coffee's getting cold here. You want a job? You want to keep your job? Coffee's cold. People that bring him in to serve probably would say, people that watch videos like this, that say, Matt, you truthers, you idiots don't get it. Plausibility. Who sent me the email on plausibility? Was it Neil? I got to visit that email. That was good. All we have to do is have somebody know of some case somewhere. And the way the news is presented, that's enough. Even their immediate family. How many sick? Nobody. Well, but they know of, Johnny, who works for somebody who works for Wawa, got something, and they know of somebody, and that's the reality does business perfectly in that warm porridge right down the middle, where they always will give somebody something to latch on to. Oh, that person knows somebody that person. The Conan the Destroyer's sidekick in going into the back door of the castle. My cousins, sisters, brothers, uncles, aunt knew this back way into the castle. My brother's sisters, cousins, uncles, aunt knows somebody that died or knows somebody that's sick. And that gives them just enough to believe the news, even though their immediate family is completely unaffected. And back to the email, I'm forgetting it. I should go listen, read it again. But it talks about the reality being a master of plausibility, just enough for people to latch onto it, so the mind control works, or what their condition, or maybe even what they want to believe. It's enough. Just gives them enough, and that it's done that so many times in all of these different types of events that, again, that gives it away as not human, whether it be what's happening now or a bang event. See, if I say it the same way, they'll be. If I have to do it different, I have to pretend it's like firecrackers. Bang event. It's just enough. See, we see a laughing Robbie, and can I say that? Yeah, I guess I can say that. We see there's Czar. Here comes Czar. Czar, don't step on the keyboard. We see, the ridiculous elements. That's what we see. But there's a few people that they put on the news that are, come here, Czar, people want to see you. There's a few people that put on the news that actually aren't horrible, horrendous actors. And they are somewhat convincing, and there are not many regarding these events, not many. But it just passes that plausibility threshold where it gives people enough to latch onto. And that's the case with everything. The moon events, but show them. Again, this gets back to mistakes on purpose, and how the revelation of the method, how they want the truthers to wake up to things, to have the truthers essential as Neo, cementing reality in their own sick ways, using truthers to do it by having information exposed at certain times, and the sophistication of that is just off the charts, and we'll have to continue to look at that. But we want to show them. To mistake on purpose, somebody on the moon hammering in some spike or something. You can hear it, bang, 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 and you couldn't hear anything, and if it was a vacuum. But you can never get a family member to sit down and watch that. They'll just take in the movies, The Right Stuff, and Tom Hanks, and incredibly, these movies about the moon are incredibly well done for a reason. The movies themselves are so. They tug on the heartstrings. They're so well done. I still enjoy watching Apollo 13. And of course, there's no difference between that and Star Trek The Wrath of Khan or something in terms of the fictional aspect of it. But I still like watching it as a fiction. It's a great movie. It's a great, great movie. And even the movies give these people enough from the plausibility threshold to latch onto. But to wrap this section up, our main frustration is that look around. There's nothing going on. Is like this nor'easter that's coming? The snowstorm is, don't go out of your house. The the streets are going to be impassable for days and days, and you're like out front, like the Truman Show, out in your lawn going, there's nothing here. Why is everybody running around for eggs and milk? There's nothing going on. Maybe, they keep what they also test and retest and test and retest, guys, in terms of, you know, the state they've devolved a human down into. Maybe they will do that someday. Maybe they will have devolved human at a certain point where in the back room meetings they'll say, are we really going to do the big test on the population? We're going to put through the Weather Channel a nor'easter with 20 inches of snow going up and down the East Coast, but we're not going to have a flake of snow, and we're going to have everybody believe that it's there, and you know, yeah, maybe that's the ultimate level of test. Or assuming that, well, they actually did that. They actually did that once, to a degree, but it was just, I think it was just John Belaris. John Belaris 20 years ago in Philadelphia got the worst forecast of all time, called for 20 inches, and it was like a dusting. But I don't know, guys. I'm just saying that they test and retest, and at some point, will they say a northeaster and no snow just to see if the population will go along with it? Well, it probably won't be that bad, but they're probably a little amazed. Maybe not. I was going to say they're probably a little amazed that the news can tell you that everybody's keeling over, and people have no, with a certain degree. There are certain people that have some stories, and they've come to me and told me the stories. But for the most part, people do not have the situation playing out around them. But how many years need to go by before they stop believing the news and believe what's happening outside their own door every day? Whatever. Thanks, guys.